And welcome to another B2B R&D Blab. I'm Ellen Williams, CEO of B2B R&D, and always joined by my co-host and co-founder and partner in crime, COO Craig Yaris. And today we're going with open mic. So we're inviting people in to just chat about anything marketing. And so I'm going to turn the mic over to Craig and see what's on your mind about digital marketing.
Well, good morning. And, one of the things that sort of has struck me this week is in our weekly Need to Know email, there's this new startup called Pebble Post. And what they're doing is taking retargeting from the digital world into the real world, sort of like when Moose and Squirrel, Bullwinkle came out of the computer. I saw the movie just the other day, so it's like in my head. And they came out of the computer into the real world and had to solve crime with against fearless leader. And so they are retargeting website visitors with regular mail. So if you visit a website, don't complete a purchase. You're going to get, with their service, a postcard advertising the things you left in your cart within a few days. So to me, I just think that's a fascinating turn of events, if you will.
Yeah, it's full circle.
Yes. We talk a lot about the move away from traditional marketing and this digital marketing time with social and Google and Bing and Yahoo, all the changes that are being made to re-engage people. To see it being done in the traditional fashion, I think is fascinating. I don't know I can't imagine in my own mind the success of it, because things like that to me just end up in the garbage when I get those postcards. But I don't know. I have not gotten one marketed directly to me. So it's can't say.
Definitely an interesting idea. And it's sort of, combining marketing as it was with what it is today. So it's an integration of sorts in a different way. And very interesting and clever. Certainly my mailbox is usually full of, unfortunately, junk. So to have something come in my regular mailbox that is very much connected to my interests. Direct mail does not have a great ROI. And this may have the opportunity to kick that up a notch.
Yeah, exactly. Direct mail, I think, less than 1% return on investment is considered good for a direct mail campaign. So it may kick it up a notch, but I'm curious as to what kind of return on investment companies will get. And it's a new company, so they have no real data from what I recall reading. I'm going to do that quick since we're digital and we can do two things at once, if you will. Their goal is to get mail to their clients within 12 to 24 hours from the website activity.
Wow.
So it's going to be very quick. But how can they guarantee that kind of action? I live in Florida, and I must say that, not to bemoan the U.S. Postal Service, but wow, is it bad here?
Oh.
Yeah. Mail while I was living in New York would get to people next day. I've sent mail a town over, and it is, 3, 4, 5 days.
So here's the question. If you have this company that's retargeting from an abandoned cart, e-commerce cart, via regular mail postcards, are they trying to hedge against emails that are the normal retargeting for an abandoned cart, where that could really get lost in an overwhelming inbox, where my mailbox has fewer and fewer and fewer things in it lately?
That's very true. I comment more often than I'd like to admit that you go to the mailbox to get the mail and you just, I don't know why I bother. It's a catalog and it's a real estate card. A lot of real estate ads, direct mail lately. I didn't think this was the season, but I'm seeing more and more of those, and it's just garbage. But the other side of that is, to get the direct mail piece, there's lots of steps now that have to be involved with me to take action on it. Just in regards to the email, I get it. I'm like, oh, you know what? Completely forgot I left it in the cart, or hey, they're offering me an additional discount. I click through directly to my cart and I speak of this because I did it last week. I was ordering something, left it in the cart, not quite sure, didn't know, got an email within a few hours that said, hey, we see you didn't purchase, here's an additional 10% off. Click here to add it to your cart. I did that, made the purchase. Very quick, sitting right in front of the computer. That direct mail card, I have to come up to my computer, open my computer, iPad, whatever it is, type in a web address that's going to be unique and hope that I type it right. It's just, I think there's some barriers there.
So I'm going to disagree a little bit. That I don't think you're going to have to type a unique URL, because if they have your actual mailing address, or even if they have your email address, you must have logged in or signed in at some point, right? So if I go to a brand new website and I start filling the cart, but I haven't given them any of my information, there's no way for them to follow up.
Good point.
If you're actually mailing to me, then I must have purchased somewhere in the past. So you've got a repeat customer, or almost a repeat customer, because I abandoned my cart, right? So you've got this repeat customer that, in your case, they emailed you, gave you a great option and got you to click. But if I get a postcard from somewhere that I've at least ordered from once in order for them to have my address at all, it's a reminder, and good chance that it's either a bookmark or maybe I have gotten an email from them in the past. I don't think it's going to be as difficult to get back to that cart.
Okay. I don't know that I completely agree with that. I do agree with the whole, I've purchased before. Right. But there's still some actions that I need to take that I don't think I would need to take with the email involved.
Yeah, I agree with that. But again, you're reaching out to already an established customer.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. It will be interesting. And I'm actually, I must say, I'm hoping one day I will get one of these, retargeted postcards. I just worry that I won't know that it was a specific ad as I flip through the mail over the garbage.
Okay, postcard versus something you have to open.
Yes, I do think it's that's a good question. I'm curious I believe it's going to be a postcard type.
I think so too, but that'll give them an opportunity to have something graphical, certainly, doing this. Oh, what's on this side, what's on that side is going to be easier than enticing me to open.
Absolutely.
Which is, the key to email too.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to entice people to open. How much can you get in that subject line that's going to connect them? And as I said earlier, it's easier to get lost in an email inbox than the box attached to my house here.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right today.
Just today.
By today, I mean this time, not just today, although I'm sure when I hit the mailbox sometime between 2 and 5 o'clock, when my mail manages to show up, there will be very little in the box. Yesterday, it was, I think, 4 of those credit card offers that just hit the garbage right away, and a real estate postcard. That was my mail.
So let's switch gears here a little bit. So the way in which people are reaching you, right? So if we go back to previous types of marketing, which is via mail, which now we've got this sort of integration between what you do online and getting in your mailbox. If we do the reverse, where how are you in their database to begin with? So now we're starting to talk about a CRM system that is sending you mail or sending you email, and how targeted are those systems. And unfortunately, CRM has, had an uphill battle since the day it was created. And it's as powerful as it is, it's just not hitting its stride yet.
I think it doesn't hit its stride because it's too powerful. If it were too confusing, too much of a learning curve to CRM, I think, for the average business person. I think back, to almost every other job, career, company I've, been involved with, and we haven't used it because of the learning curve involved. I know even for myself, it's a complete change in the way people do business. And I think that's hard for people. Change is hard. I see, and I know you're pulling me along in that regard, and I see the power of it, but it's the fear of using it, I think, that sometimes turns people off on CRM.
That's interesting that you said fear.
Oh, yeah.
The fear of a CRM. I've in my history, I've seen less fear and more, just like you said, resistance to change. I have to learn too much, it's going to take too much time, or maybe lack of understanding. But fear has less of the time I've actually experienced that. That doesn't mean it's not happening. But the interesting thing about CRM is, like any other piece of software, you look at Microsoft Office, the functionality is tremendous. You're never going to use it all. Yet everyone uses Microsoft Word and Excel for whatever they use them for, right?
That's true. That's true.
So when you look at a CRM, yes, it can definitely be daunting. There are tabs and there are fields and there are a lot of things going on, but that doesn't mean you need to use it all. And I think if salespeople and marketers understood that it can save time, and it can almost be like a virtual assistant in some ways. Not just the to-dos and the reminders, but the actual communications and the gathering of information that makes the next conversation easier, because you can just tap right into that data, or you can even automate it, which has its pros and cons. Absolutely. You don't want to take the human factor out 100%. But if you can get a system to, at least on some basic level, enable you to maintain communications with the people who have shown interest in your business, that's where the power is. And I don't think it has to be so complicated.
I don't know that it has to be complicated. I think people look at it as complicated. For whatever reason, give me Word, Excel, PowerPoint, not Excel, Word, PowerPoint, not Excel. And I can jump right in, no problem, because I've been using it on and off, more on than off, for since 1990, 88 maybe. It's second nature. I think if CRM was a required tool in colleges, it would become second nature. So we're throwing a new tool at people who are or may be resistant to those tools. For a long time, I actually was not a Microsoft product user way back when. My first Dell computer back when I went to law school in 1992, I was using AmiPro by Lotus, not Microsoft Word. And I loved AmiPro and updated it and bought the new version every year. Up until they became something else. And I kept going. I have documents that I still have. I have a translator for them. But jumping from AmiPro to Word was a simple move.
Yes.
Jumping from Word to a CRM, or even Outlook to a CRM, those aren't simple moves.
And neither of those are the jump you're going to take. You're still going to be using Outlook, and you're still going to be using Word.
Good point.
It's an addition. It's a tool. It could be, like I said, it could be even considered like a virtual assistant. But from a marketing standpoint, the information it gathers, and I think the enablement of segmentation, good targeting, potential retargeting,
Yes.
anything with a database, which is similar to Excel, which is funny that you weren't playing with it. Anything with a database has that functionality to get that data to twist and turn in ways that aren't obvious. And I think that's the advantage to having something like a CRM. Even if you just dip your toe in, you just start with maybe some contact information, and then you create a field that says, well, what's their Twitter account? And, then maybe you look at their Twitter account, maybe it connects like social CRM. And if it doesn't, maybe you put a few other fields like, what are their interests? Because you've read some of their social media, and all of a sudden now you've got a profile that didn't necessarily take a lot of time and didn't necessarily tap into all the technology, but allows you to better target them. And this can be done in, some of the email products out there too, like Constant Contact has a good contact management. I wouldn't call it a CRM, but it has the same functionality I was just speaking about.
No, absolutely. And I think the opportunity through a CRM is huge. I mean, you're just scratching a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of the surface with some of the things you can do. I think, and I love the idea of what's available there. So what's stopping me from jumping in with both feet? I'm somebody who loves technology, new tools. I'll play with any website, alive, just to learn about it. But yet I feel like there's this hurdle within CRM that I don't know what is causing it, because every time we talk about it, the opportunities are huge, huge in my mind. But yet I have I don't know what it is. It's sort of funny in my mind.
It's funny, the things you were just talking about, the software that you use and the ones you're willing to jump into are very design, creative, almost, visual, graphical in nature, whereas CRM and Excel are not. They're very stable, structured, data, rows, columns, follow the directions kind of thing. So maybe that's the way I like them. Interesting. Okay. All right. That's a very interesting take on it. I hadn't thought of that. And that, you know what, now that I'm sort of brainstorming here, that might be why there's such a resistance in the marketing industry, because it's such a creative industry. To be using a tool that's very structured and disciplined and formatted might be counterintuitive to the way marketers work. Maybe. We may have just hit on something. Yeah. Wow. You bring out the best in me, Craig. That's one of the nicest things anybody's ever said to me. Oh, I feel honored. And it's recorded, so you can. Yeah, no. Are you kidding? I'm going to take the recording, pull that out of it, and that's it. Awesome. So we're starting to get some more people here joining us. There's a seat open. It is open mic. We're just sort of, chatting about all things digital marketing. We've talked about, remind me what the name of the first company was? Oh my goodness. It's Pebble Post. Pebble Post. And that was a company that's sending actual postcards through the mail as retargeting to e-commerce carts that were abandoned before purchase. The second topic we chatted about was marketing automation via CRM, and we had a epiphany here about why there may be a struggle in the marketing industry to really adopt it. Do you have another topic you want to throw on the table? Well, actually, I wanted to sort of stretch the you talked CRM and you touched on marketing automation, and I'm curious as to the relationship between marketing automation and the fact that marketing automation doesn't seem to have the same sort of
barriers to people that a CRM would. Companies like Infusionsoft are marketing automation companies. You could use Constant Contact, you mentioned them before, as a marketing automation tool. Put a name in, add a tag, send an email. Infusionsoft has a whole system of email automation. And I'm curious how the two can relate and how the two can be used together in your mind. And should they be? Is marketing automation a good thing? That's something that I think people talk about all the time. And I go back and forth on it. I really do. So I'm curious what you think.
Well, I think Infusionsoft is also a CRM. They have multiple functions, and I suppose it's however you enter. If you're looking for the marketing automation element, maybe you don't see it as a CRM, but it's that CRM engine that's going to run that automation.
Okay.
We mentioned Constant Contact, not a CRM, more of a contact management functionality. But again, what are you going there for? They have email, they have social media, they have event, they have other things. So it's perception, right? What am I using this for? And that's the tool that it is, even if there's a CRM underlying it. But from a marketing automation standpoint, I think there's high value in that, as long as it's not what you are using exclusively. And, we can say that about any marketing plan. You can never exclusively do any one thing. Don't just do email. Don't just do social media. Don't just do emails with the abandoned cart, right? Now there's more and more tools out there. So I think marketing automation is very valuable because you can't do it all. That's what technology is for. There are templates for everything. So enabling you to get more done. And I think marketing automation plays a role in that, so not exclusively. You still have to meet people. You still have to be at social media and be engaging. You do things like this. We're live, we're engaging, hopefully. But this isn't automated, but that doesn't mean we're not, programming things to go out in the future about coming back here to see the replay. So I think it's an element of marketing that can be very valuable.
What about companies that rely on sort of the automated aspect too much? Do you think they do themselves a disservice when they schedule everything? And I know the answer in my mind, but I'm just curious. Do you think that companies can come back from errors that they make through marketing automation?
Those are two different questions.
Yeah, they are. And I think the second one is the better one.
Well, I'm going to answer the first one first.
Of course.
Which is, it depends, right? It depends on the company. So I buy online from Macy's, and I probably get an email every day from Macy's about, a sale going on today, or a 3-day sale, or take advantage of it today. Is it a lot of email? It is. Do I read it every day? I don't. Is it annoying to me? No, because I've taken advantage of it enough to know that there's value in there, and it'll be there when I'm ready. So some of them will get away with because we give them that permission. Now, for companies that have made a mistake and have overburdened my inbox, and I'm just not interested to the point where I unsubscribe, it's very hard to come back from that mistake, because unsubscribing with a legitimate business takes me off your list, and you don't really get the chance to try to get me back unless I've connected with you elsewhere. So if you're making mistakes as far as your email frequency and you start to see your list, diminish, you better be jumping on another platform like social media to sort of rally the troops and say, we get it, thank you for your feedback. We're going to be communicating much less via email. Find things you really want on social media at a time that's convenient for you, and then potentially get people to come back around. But that's a much harder fix than my tolerating a little overburden in the inbox, because eventually you're going to hit the mark.
Well, and the reason I'd asked that is because, and you brought up sort of counter to it, I had experience with Old Navy. I have two boys.
Okay.
I have two boys, and we used to, when they were younger, shop at Old Navy. And we had bought a lot of clothes there and joined their email list. And I started getting email from them advertising all of their girls' clothes every day. After about 4, 5, 6 days of email that was totally not targeted to me, I unsubscribed and haven't shopped at them since.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Steve,
so
how are you?
So there you have the mistake not being able to be fixed.
Yep, absolutely.
Hey, welcome, Steve.
Hi, guys. Craig, and I'm sorry, I don't know your name, madam. Ellen. I should write that down so I don't forget it. Yeah. So, do you know what attracted me? Just as a fellow marketer, that is one of the hats I wear. You use the term digital marketing. You don't see that so often these days. And that was my title when I was last employed. So I thought, digital marketing, good.
Right. And of course, we're talking about postcards.
Yeah.
But that's a new digital company, and they're doing some interesting things with both digital marketing and traditional marketing. So tell us a little bit about your history.
From a marketing point of view. So I was successful with Google AdWords between the years 2005 to 2014, January 2014, when my last gig ended. From 2010 to present, I wrote a script in 2010, a screenplay, and I've been animating it since. So that's why. Yeah, so that's why at this moment I'm on here as Sci-Fi Funk, but you'll also see me on here as HTD Web Marketing when I've got my marketing hat on. Having said that, I couldn't help myself, and so that's why I've jumped in with the wrong ID, if you like.
No, that's not a problem. I like the Sci-Fi Funk ID personally.
Excellent.
That's a whole nother set of conversations, though.
It is.
Because, I believe both Ellen and I sort of, have a geek side to us.
A bit.
So, that's attractive to us. But we were talking, and you've got that digital. So tell me, what is it about? You said people don't use the term digital marketing. What is it that you're seeing? Because I'll speak for Ellen, and she'll correct me if I'm wrong. But we're seeing that term used more and more here. Now, I noticed the slight accent you have. So I don't. Are you not? Where are you? Dialing in from?
Yeah, I live in England, and I live on the south coast of England, where we actually have palm trees here in Bournemouth.
Awesome.
Yeah, but it's cold. It's cold right now. So yes.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask you, are you not seeing companies, people, marketers using that digital marketing phraseology? That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe it's because I've stepped out of the corporate world. The last time I was in the corporate world was 2009. So I've been in the entrepreneurial world, startup world ever since. So perhaps that's the reason why. But I tell you something, I've been sitting on Blab now. This is my 31st day on Blab. So I'm a month old. And I've not seen the term digital marketing in the time that I've been sitting here.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. Good for us.
Good for you. Because to me, digital marketing, that's the whole gauntlet of possibilities online. Yeah. Whereas people seem fixated with social media, and they don't seem to be talking so much about pay-per-click.
Interesting. And last week on our Blab, we had an SEO expert on as well. So I hadn't really thought about the use of the term digital marketing. We don't, Ellen and I, our company is research-based. We don't focus on social. We don't focus on one area. We talk about everything digital marketing.
Right.
Cool.
So it sort of gives us a unique perspective, I think. And it's way more fun than talking about one thing.
Yeah, well, one thing's not the best fit always. So, sorry, Ellen.
Right.
No, that's okay. But I think we wanted to differentiate ourselves because we don't really talk about print and other types of marketing. We really do focus on things that are going on online.
Yeah. Oh, I really want to pick your brains. You'll see on my clock there, I'm down to my last minute.
Yeah, I see that. That's very interesting. Is it if you don't get off then, what happens? I need to know.
Well, usually when I'm on here with a much bigger time amount, I'm rendering in the background, and then I have a choice. Do I physically create media or do I network? So when that counter hits 0, I have to render or it's costing me money.
Okay.
In lost opportunity.
Now
I'm on 0. So my question to you, good people, is are you going to be on this Blab for a while? Because I'm probably going to be ready in another quarter of an hour. And then
we go to 11 today, or another 27 minutes or so.
Okay.
But we're here every week, and the perfect one for you would be we're back on October 30th with our homage to Halloween, and we're inviting people to come in their best geek costume. So this may be right up your alley.
Okay, well, look, what I'm going to do, I'll be physically listening in the thingy there, and then if I can get rendering and you'll have me, I'll join you again.
Awesome.
Excellent.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Same here.
Cool.
Well, see, that's a very different background, and I'm very fascinated with the. I didn't think using the term digital marketing was that unusual. So he's 31 days old, so I imagine he's had some experience on it.
I saw something probably a couple months ago in some of the blogs I was reading that it's an old term. That it's sort of like blasé. Digital marketing isn't the way it's being referenced anymore, and it made me think twice. But I think it's important that we maintain it as digital marketing, because I really don't have a lot of advice about, anything else, honestly.
Well, yeah, and in my mind, still there is although Pebble Post that we talked about earlier is sort of bridging that digital traditional gap, there is still a huge gap between traditional and digital marketing. Digital marketing does, like Steve said, cover the gamut from pay-per-click to SEO to social to email to the integration of all of those. But we don't have expertise in newspaper ads or magazine ads or postcards. That's just, in fact, I'm not sure if either of us I have not worked. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Digital's digital.
Digital's digital.
The comment on the side was that Steve didn't either.
Yeah. I don't know, and I'm just trying to think, some of my last clients when I was servicing clients through another company, that traditional marketing was never a part of the strategy. It just wasn't.
Certainly if you're out doing trade shows, you're going to have marketing materials. And that's a little different than postcards and advertising.
Yes.
And I'm not the person to ask about, what makes a great, handout or one sheet or any of that kind of thing.
Nope. I totally agree with you. In fact, I find when going to trade shows, I tend to avoid taking a lot of material from them and would rather snap a quick picture of maybe their booth, so that way I can reference them online later. The paper, the paper becomes clutter.
That's very interesting. I had never considered turning somebody's trade show booth digital by just taking the image and having it on my phone and then, utilizing it in social media later.
Yep.
Really interesting idea.
Yeah, what I tend to do is I'll take a picture and save it to Evernote. I'll start a folder that's, for the event, and I'll take pictures of the booths or the information that I want to reference later. So that way I can do it. One, I have it on my computer or my iPad, my iPhone, it's everywhere. And I actually just found, I wish I could find it. I went to a chamber event, I don't know, 4 months ago, and they gave out bags full of information. It's been sitting in the corner, useless.
Yeah, interesting point. I have been doing some of that recently too, and I have like 3 bags, and then you
Right.
sit there and you go, oh, I just don't have the time to go through the stuff that I took from that event.
Yeah. And it's still sitting. I opened it the other day. It's a nice bag, and my wife's an educator, so she uses bags like they gave out. And I'll give it to her eventually when I, empty it sometime. And my guess is the emptying will be right into the garbage because the stuff, I haven't looked at it. How relevant can it be?
Right, you've lost the timeliness.
Yeah. So,
very interesting.
Yeah, to me, it's just, and that's probably contrary to anybody who has any trade show experience will tell me, you need to have something people walk away with. So that's why we don't consider ourselves experts in that.
So that's interesting. So how can we turn? So you're doing that as an attendee. So how can people turn that from the exhibitor standpoint, where you're in person and we're talking, handouts? How do we turn that into digital marketing? Maybe there's a way that the booth person takes the photo and then tags the person in the photo and says,
Sure.
So we'll put this up on, some social media and you'll be able to reference it later. Or how does the, instead of my going to a trade show and having all the stuff on my table and people taking it, and as you said, winding up in the trash if they don't take action on it fast enough after they get back from the show. How do I, other than let me take your email and I'll email you, how do you make it more interactive? Really interesting idea.
I happen to really like QR codes. I know lots of people don't. A lot of people don't even know how to use them, which is part of the problem with QR codes. But I like them because they have the ability for me to download contact info. Scan this to download our information, our one sheet that you were going to take, download it here. And so now there's no longer the issue of digital, it's of traditional and throwing it away. I have it right here. Hey, good morning.
Hello and welcome.
Oh, yeah, no.
I do use QR codes actually. We normally use an education setting.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
We're having trouble hearing you.
Oh, let's see.
Sounds like there's a bit of a lag.
Yeah, and I'm getting that note that there's poor internet. I don't know if that's me or him.
Yeah.
I think it's mine.
The audio just got better.
Yeah.
So do you have an opinion on the trade show digital kind of conversation? Oh, okay, so we'll give him a try if it comes back. I like that though. The traditional plus digital. How do you merge the two successfully?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I love free USB drives with company names on them, basically because I love USB drives. I collect them. Pens don't do anything for me. The QR code or the digital, the picture of the booth, that's what's really going to. So it may be a question of visuals. People, you make your booth, interesting and interactive somehow. You and I had.
Well, but there are people there that it's interactive.
Oh, you mean I got to talk to the people? But you know what? You know what's funny though? The number of times you walk by a trade show booth where the guys or women are sitting behind the booth on their phone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I had done trade shows through the franchise that I was running, and we'd back the table all the way up against the booth, so we had no choice. You have to be in front because the only way to talk to somebody is to be out in front and to greet them.
Now, if you take that approach, which I've always done as well, then you've got the opportunity for those photos to be much easier to take, that I'm not behind a table. We're not trying to stretch or reach, where I'm standing right next to you, and you can do those booth selfie kind of things. That's a really interesting idea, instead of the traditional marketing materials, to have a very engaged booth that really promotes and motivates people to get part of the selfie, and the selfie has the QR code in the back or the logo in the back or something of value that they can walk away with and say, now I've got your materials, or I've got a way to get to your materials.
Even to go so far as to have something on the banner that says, snap a picture, tag us on social media for a chance to, instead of the traditional put your business card in for the raffle, tag us on social media with the hashtag XYZ for a chance to win this. So now I may make that extra step. So not only am I taking the picture to remember your company, but I may actually take that overt action and share on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter with that hashtag. Look, I would love to win as much as the next guy. So I may be more apt to do that, to do all of those things, than take your piece of paper that's ending up in a bag on the floor of my office.
Another nice digital spin to traditional trade shows. So my question for you now is, great campaign. Now social media starts to heat up a little with maybe the hashtag, but how do we get that email address? How do we do that follow-up? Do we have to do more enticement via social media to get them to come on board? Is the connection via social media enough for us to be able to follow up?
I definitely think it is, but it requires effort.
Or automation. We can have animation too.
Yeah, we could do animated automation.
Right, Steve? We can do animation too. So yeah, maybe maybe the social media, when you see the hashtag, maybe here's this was announced by Twitter a while ago, where you can tap into the live events that they know are coming and sort of pre-program those ads so you look like you're part of the conversation. If you're at a trade show and you're going to be promoting those hashtags, you can preset. You don't need to do it through Twitter. You can do it through any program that allows you to schedule out in the future. So now you've got your digital marketing happening while you're at the trade show, and all of a sudden people are joining in.
Absolutely. And and again, we focused more on the digital aspect than the traditional, converting the traditional trade show idea to the digital world, which is where I think people are comfortable nowadays. Especially if you're trying to hit a younger, I'm going to use the word.
Go for it.
Millennial audience.
So my question is, do millennials go to trade shows? Yeah.
That's a good question, and not being an area that I'm an expert in, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I do think it's possible if the
it always does. We have a comment on the side. I knew the M word was coming. It's one of Craig's favorites. But it's you can't get around it.
No, you really can't. And I think they'll be coming to trade shows a little bit more if they're not now. It's just a feeling. I've never found trade shows successful from a business owner end, ever, having done them in different industries. But I think from an attendee version, as an attendee, I find them much more useful because it gives me lots of choice in a small area. So I can learn about, there'll be 5 digital marketing companies. So I could learn about 5 different views on X, or I can go see a speech and a speaker on a certain topic and learn something. As an attendee, I find them useful. As an exhibitor, I've done them. We've done them together, Ellen. And I don't know how successful they are, even with follow-up that's one-on-one, not automated. So whenever I'd attend a trade show, I'd take all the business cards I got and actually send them email that was personalized. I wouldn't use a service. And it just is not for me, was not a tool worthwhile.
So I'm gonna spin back and go, okay, so you've gotten the business cards, you've gotten permission. right? That's key. At the very least, you've gotten permission to communicate. And if you've done a good job, you've gotten permission to add them to a list. Throw them in the CRM. And here comes the marketing automation, right? You can do that first one that looks really personal. But if you don't have the time to follow up, the system can.
No, absolutely.
Any trade show, the value is the follow-up. And that's where the automation can really make that trade show more valuable. But I think combined with some of the digital marketing concepts you have that can happen in person, combining all of that maybe I've gotten your business card and your email, so now you can be part of my CRM and my marketing automation. And if we go back to what I said earlier about maybe harnessing the social CRM, that's a way to connect with your idea as well. And so maybe I can start to develop these relationships without your email address and eventually lead to something more personal. We met in person, the continuation happens digitally, that potentially brings us back if in person if need be. Depends on the business, right? If it's a service business, you might be more in person, and if it's a product business, then you can have the online stuff.
Right. And it's interesting that you brought that back around, because I think about some of the things we've talked about and that are out there, that it takes 7 to 10 touches before somebody will actually have enough trust to do business with you. And when you don't automate that sort of follow-up, I will probably take the blame for maybe falling off after 2-3 email. You ignore me 2-3 times, I'm probably dropping off of your, I'm going to stop making the attempt. Where an automation platform over 8 weeks can send out those different touches, those different types of emails. So it's a very interesting.
And you just brought something to my attention that's very interesting. The marketing automation doesn't feel bad when people don't reply, right? So you're like, I emailed you 3 times and you've ignored me. I'm gonna stop because there's an emotional, I don't want to keep doing that. Where the automation, as long as it's written well and it's it's nice and friendly and it's not obnoxious to the people receiving it, it's not gonna matter. To the automation.
Yeah, they don't care if you ignore them.
They don't care, right? So those touch points continue. They just need to be designed and developed to be done well, but they won't stop. You'll get your 7 to 10 touches.
That's very true. And does that bring it back around to robots from last time?
No robots today.
No robots? Okay, no robots. But that's very true, and it's not something I had ever considered. It's that emotional part of it. It's, look, you're ignoring me. Fine, I'll ignore you too.
So I have to make a point here, a little off topic. So these blabs have almost become like therapy for you and me. Like we talk about so much stuff. Everybody sits around and listens to us figure things out.
Yes, and I totally agree, Steve. The content has to be useful. And that's part of that trust building within those touches, is that the content's not just, hey, hello, remember me? We met and buy my stuff. It's, when we spoke, you mentioned X. Here's a great article on that. And nothing more than that. And it becomes useful for the audience, and you build up the trust, the respect that you need to really do business with somebody.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying, as long as it's designed well,
that
it's not intrusive, that it really does those touch points that the automation is doing for you, is doing you justice, that you've thought it out. And maybe, as you mentioned, well, I talked to you about X. So you start to gather that information when you speak to people, and you put that in the CRM, and they get led down a different type of messaging. And there Absolutely. You have the automation being even more personal.
And you had mentioned the social CRM sort of idea, and it's really not coming into its own as quickly as I thought it would, because I can do a quick search on Twitter. If I've got your name and email address, I can do a quick search on Twitter. I've now got your Twitter profile that I could add to the social CRM. And monitor sounds like the wrong word, but I can follow you and see what interests you and use that to sort of, within the automation, to build up that relationship. Right. And not in a creepy way.
Right. because the more information I have about you, so say you and I, met for the first time, we had a conversation, I put you in my CRM, I linked it to your Twitter, and then we had a phone call, and then maybe we had coffee, and I gathered more information about you. And a month goes by, and I want to follow up, and I go to your record, and all of a sudden I see right there in your record in my database that you tweeted something that I can definitely communicate with you about. I don't have to go to Twitter to find that. This data is getting pulled into my system about the people I want to reach out to.
I completely agree. And we had a question there from Steve. When we say CRM, we are not including WordPress. WordPress is a platform for building websites, if people don't realize. We're talking about actual CRM, customer relationship management software. Right. We've talked Infusionsoft. We're using, and shake your head no if I shouldn't mention the name of the company we're using.
That's okay.
We're using something called Bitrix 24 as our CRM. Yeah. It is completely and outside of the website CRM, website platforms, rather.
Yeah, and of course, the popular ones are Salesforce, and there's a Microsoft CRM, there's Zoho CRM, there's Sugar CRM. They're customer relationship management, so they're databases with contact information and more. I think WordPress is content management.
Yes.
Is it right? So maybe the acronym is similar. Data mining applications. So those are an extension of the CRM. A CRM doesn't necessarily have to go out and mine for data. It can house the data that you accumulate. Data mining applications will take the data you have and go out and look for more. So CRM is sort of at the heart of all of this, but it doesn't have to include all these sort of additional extensions.
I do think, Steve, you had mentioned a database can do it to some extent, but I think that has to do with the programming on the back end. Bitrix 24, for instance, doesn't have that functionality. Could they? Who knows? That's way beyond my...
Yeah, it might. We haven't even played with it that much.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely, a database has that, a lot of them do have that functionality. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Absolutely.
And then once you've got a database that you own, right? Like the one we've developed at B2B R&D. It's not about people, it's about content.
Right.
Then the mining of your own data can become very valuable, especially, and I'm going to switch gears totally, especially your financial, your accounting. If you've got a lot of customers, you start mining back into your customers to see, what they've purchased, when the last time they purchased, and then you can start, remarketing to your own customer base, because it's so much easier to have a customer come back than it is to find a new one. So your own accounting database is a great place to be data mining.
And Amazon is incredible at that. How many times you visit Amazon to buy a widget and they remind you that, it's been 3 months since you bought this paper or ink, and it's probably time you buy it again. And I've fallen victim to that.
Well, not only that, people who bought what you just bought also bought these other things.
Yes.
So they're starting to see patterns and trends, and they're predicting. So that's another whole different technology, predictive. But when, I get emails from Amazon that say, this new book on this topic came out, and this tends to be the type of book you purchase.
Exactly.
Are you interested? And,
Yeah.
The
buy with one click.
Right. Now, if I got a postcard that said that might equally be as interesting to me.
Really? See, to me, the minute you said that, you turned me, just like shut me down. I'm like, no, that wouldn't do it.
You're a very digital guy.
I really am. It's not surprising. I sort of admit that. But yeah, the idea, if Amazon sent me a postcard after I bought something and said, hey, people who buy what you bought also buy these two things, I'd be like, no, I bought it already.
Well, what if they sent you one a month later that just said, the top 6 selling books in your category are, with the covers of the books?
Nope.
Would that entice you to, maybe I'll, pull out, I have the app on my phone, bing, and there I'm there.
No, especially with an Apple device. I use an iPhone. I can't purchase through the Kindle app. I have to actually go to the Amazon website, search for the item, and then purchase it, and then go back to the Kindle app. There's a shock.
So we are rolling up to 2 minutes left. Anything else you want to throw out there?
No, I'm done.
So we are here every week. We are changing around some of the dates and times, to see what attracts most of the people on Blab. They all do start with digital marketing insights, except for the one on the 30th. You could just, come geek out with us. Steve, we do hope to see you next time. And, all things digital marketing and thoughts about it. Everyone's welcome. So let's wrap it up here, Craig.
All right. Take care, Alan. That's it.
That's it, period.
That's it.